Oil. It's the lifeblood of modern civilization, fueling industries, powering economies, and shaping geopolitics. But as the world hurtles towards a future driven by renewable energy, Saudi Arabia finds itself at a crossroads. Picture this: a world where oil demand hits its peak, where electric cars dominate the streets, and where renewable energy reigns supreme. That's the future the International Energy Agency paints, a future where oil dominance wanes, potentially by as soon as 2028. Now, don't get me wrong, oil isn't disappearing overnight. It's the raw material for everything from your polyester shirt to life-saving medications. But make no mistake, the global shift away from oil is underway. The EU and Japan pledged to go all electric by 2035. America and China are pouring billions into renewable energy. It's clear, the era of oil supremacy is on borrowed time. But if there's one person sweating bullets over this shift, it's Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Why? Well, besides the towering skyscrapers and vast deserts, Saudi Arabia sits on an ocean of oil, nearly a fifth of the world's proven reserves. Let's put it into perspective. Saudi Arabia's Ghawar Fields, the largest onshore oil field, could pump out enough black gold to rival entire countries, and it's not alone. Safaniya, the largest offshore field, and Abqaiq, the world's largest oil processing facility, make Saudi Arabia an oil titan. Here's the kicker: Saudi oil is dirt cheap to extract, around $4 a barrel compared to the $40 it costs to frack shale in America. With this economic advantage, Saudi Arabia stands as the world's second largest oil producer and the undisputed king of exports. But here's where the plot thickens. As the world inches away from oil, Saudi Arabia faces a dilemma. How does it maintain its grip on power when its greatest asset becomes a liability? It's a high-stakes gamble. Will Saudi Arabia adapt and diversify its economy, or will it cling to its black gold until the last drop? The clock is ticking for Mohammed bin Salman. The world is changing, and Saudi Arabia must change with it or risk being left behind in the dust of history. So picture this: Saudi Arabia sitting on top of one heck of an oil reserve. We're talking massive here, folks. But here's the twist: they're not pumping out as much oil as they could. Why, you ask? Well, it's all part of a little thing called OPEC. You see, Saudi Arabia has been playing ball with OPEC, cutting back on production to keep those oil prices soaring. Fast forward to 2022. Supply shocks from global openings and a little thing called the Ukraine war sent oil prices skyrocketing. And guess who's raking in the dough? That's right, Saudi Aramco, the big daddy of all state-owned oil companies, reporting a jaw-dropping $161 billion in profits. I mean, come on, even Apple would envy those numbers. Saudi Arabia is dancing on a tightrope here. They're like that guy at the casino who's all in on red. Why? Because they've put almost all their eggs in one oily basket. We're talking 40% of their real GDP, 70% of their exports, and a whopping 75% of government revenue, all riding on the back of that precious oil. And let me tell you about their economy. It's a bit of a head-scratcher. No income tax, a hefty chunk of the population made up of foreign contract workers, and more than half the workforce on the government payroll. Yeah, talk about putting all your chips on black gold. Saudi Arabia is sitting on a gold mine, no doubt about it. But with the world inching towards renewable energy and oil prices playing a game of roulette, the Saudis are staring down the barrel of uncertainty. Will they stick to their oil guns and ride it out, or will they diversify their economy and hedge their bets? It's a high-stakes gamble, my friends, and the clock is ticking. Will Saudi Arabia make it rain with oil money for years to come, or will they find themselves in a desert of economic woes? Only time will tell. Saudi Arabia is raking in what we call oil rent. Basically, it's cashing in on its massive oil reserves. But here's the kicker: their economy? It's like a one-trick pony, heavily reliant on oil. And with the world eyeing up greener pastures, Saudi Arabia is facing a tough choice. Instead of scaling back on oil, they're going full throttle, ramping up production like there's no tomorrow. And here's the twist: despite swimming in oil money, they're keeping their wallets shut tight. Why, you ask? Well, they're gearing up for one heck of a gamble. They're aiming to become a regional powerhouse in finance and logistics, with cities like Riyadh and Jeddah leading the charge. And when it comes to science, they're leaving no stone unturned, investing in everything from AI to flying cars. They're not just building for themselves, they're rolling out the red carpet for tourists.